Hello, my name is Tawana Kelly, and I chose the article Teacher Contract Renewal by Nixon, Packard, and Dam. The reason this article was very significant to me and relevant for me was because as I move into the role as a school leader, as a principal, I want to, or even if I serve as an assistant principal prior to becoming a principal again, I want to be able to hold people accountable. When I came into the profession, well, when I came into school leadership at the administrative level, when I first became an assistant principal, I was a principal for as an assistant principal, and then March of that very same year we went into COVID. And what I found was in the era of COVID, and with a principal who was much more drawn to, under the leadership of a principal who was much more drawn to have compassion for people, what I found was I didn't get to hone, as a school leader, I didn't get to hone my skills of holding educators accountable for the success of students. We very much didn't really follow the TEACS process with fidelity. And so as a result, most of the time, teachers couldn't be held accountable for their lack of skill, their lack of content knowledge, for their disposition with the children. Those things we couldn't hold them accountable. And so what we saw was teachers who weren't necessarily um, good for the students in our school environment, um, but we couldn't non-renew them where the need was there. And so in reading this and as I begin to apply for principal jobs and things of that nature, I wanted to just kind of see what was out there in reference to how principals, I know how principals go about non-renewing teachers, but just making certain to see, what are the things that are considered, I guess, most egregious when it comes to teaching scholars. And so what was number one was instructional skills, because it's one thing to have content, and content knowledge was second, but it's instructional skills because it's one thing to have the knowledge, but it's another thing to be able to impart that knowledge to students so that they can be successful on the content that they need to be successful on. And then lastly was disposition. Now, whereas only 13% of teachers thought, administrators thought disposition was the most important, it is still very important that you have a disposition for servicing children. And so that was the other thing. And so I found the article to be very helpful as I begin to take on that role so that I can be a more effective leader and make sure that I'm inspecting what I expect from my teachers.